Welcome back to Daily Devotions with Pastor Peter. I'm Pastor Peter, and we are in Romans 13. Let's start. Everyone must submit to governing authorities, for all authority comes from God, and those in positions of authority have been placed there by God. So anyone who rebels against authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and they will be punished. For the authorities do not strike fear in people who are doing right, but in those who are doing wrong. Would you like to live without fear of the authorities? Do what is right, and they will honor you. The authorities are God's servants, sent for your good. But if you are doing wrong, of course you should be afraid, for they have the power to punish you. They are God's servant, sent for the very purpose of punishing those who do what is wrong. So you must submit to them, not only to avoid punishment, but also to keep a clear conscience. Pay your taxes, too, for these same reasons, for government workers need to be paid. They are serving God in what they do. Give to everyone what you owe them. Pay your taxes and government fees to those who collect them, and give respect and honor to those who are in authority. Owe nothing to anyone, except for your obligation to love one another. If you love your neighbor, you will fulfill the requirements of God's law. For the commandments say, you must not commit adultery, you must not murder, you must not steal, you must not covet. These and other such commandments are summed up in this one commandment. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no wrong to others, so love fulfills the requirements of God. This is all the more urgent, for you know how late it is. Time is running out. Wake up, for our salvation is nearer now than we first believed. The night is almost gone. The day of salvation will soon be here. So remove your dark deeds like dirty clothes and put on the shining armor of right living, because we belong to the day. We must live decent lives for all to see. Don't participate in the darkness of wild parties and drunkenness, or in sexual promiscuity and immoral living, or in quarreling and jealousy. Instead, clothe yourself with the presence of the Lord Jesus Christ, and don't let yourself think about ways to indulge in your evil desires. This is a short chapter. However, it's a very striking passage because we are in a place right now where people wonder, should we follow our authorities or not? And the specific thing I'm saying right now is churches gathering. People are up in arms about whether or not they should gather. Our government in California has issued a purple tiered level, which means we're not supposed to have indoor worship. Will they enforce it? No. So if you don't have any teeth into your laws, then there's no point of issuing them because no one will follow them, I guess. So it's more of a heavy recommendation. With that, the question that goes on here is, should we still obey what our government says? And if we, in my personal opinion, I would say yes. The reason why is because Verse 13 says, well, everyone must submit to governing authorities. Everyone. For authority comes from God. Now, then you ask me the question, how about if I lived in a communist country or in a place like China where they supposedly oppress their people, silence their people, there's no freedom of speech, everything else too? Well, as much as you can submit to that, but when it goes against our faith, you may have to stand up for your faith. See, we're very fortunate here in the United States that we don't have to do that right now. And when our authority is in rebellion to God, and if we follow and we're implicit, then yes, we are part of the problem. However, if our authority isn't following God's law, then yes, we do have the right to stand up. Now, I'm saying this very carefully, that if we do incite a rebellion, it has to be theologically, biblically correct. And if we could prove that this is an infringement of our rights to worship, serve God, then yeah, by all means, do what you need to do. However, if it isn't, then, well, should you rebel? And the answer is no. So here in California, churches, my recommendation, worship outside if you can. And if you want to worship indoors, even though the government's not going to go against you, the fact that the government said, hey, this is what we need you to do to save lives. My friends, you continue looking on. What are we supposed to do? We're supposed to love others, save a life, worship outside, enjoy the sanctuary of God's earth that He's given us, which is called earth, really, the outdoors. And in California, we could do this. In other places, I don't know how likely it is. If there was a nor'easter storm that was going into to New York and Washington, D.C., I could say, yes, it's a little bit more difficult to worship outdoors. We have the luxury to do that. At the coldest during the daytime, it's like 65 degrees, 60 degrees at the coldest. That's not cold. I mean, if you had free tickets to go to Disneyland and it was 50 degrees outside or 40 degrees outside, most of us would still go, "Oh, they're free tickets." Then why can't we worship God outside? And why can't we just stop complaining about how cold it is when it's not really that cold? As Californians and as a person who's lived elsewhere, we complain so much about weather. I'm going on a rant right now, and maybe I shouldn't be. But you know what? Just follow the guidelines to save a life if you can. It's not an infringement of our worship, because we could still worship, just not indoors. And the church was never the building. The church is in the hearts of people. So if anyone rebels against authority, they're going against God. We're supposed to do what they call us to do. If they're not doing what God says, then we can fight. But then again, what are we supposed to do? Never fight evil with evil. Love. How do we love when we disagree with someone? We bring it up as we follow guidelines. That's my take and my opinions. Authorities are God's servants, so are we. We need to do what we must do, but we need to keep a clear conscience. So pay taxes, give what you owe, and what we're supposed to owe to everyone is love. Verse 8, owe nothing except for your obligation to love one another. If you love your neighbor, you will fulfill the great requirements of God's law. And all those things, it sums up in what? Love others as yourself. All right, time is running out for us to do that. And interestingly enough, too, time, death, future. When we look at death, it's not an event that happens later on. Death happens every single moment. The fact that you're listening to me on this video, that's 6 minutes of your life that you can't take back. That time that you had is now dead to you. You can't revive it. It's gone. Death happens continually. The question is, are we going to wake up and take hold of our time to do what we need to do? The time is nearer than it was 2,000 years ago. And that's just God's patience that He's given us. And so salvation will be here soon. Remove dark deeds like dirty clothes, put on. So it's an actual thing. Take off the dirty stuff. Put on the right stuff. Don't participate in all these evil things. Don't participate. And don't let yourself, I like the last part here in verse 14, and don't let yourself think about ways to indulge your evil desires. When we see something evil, we could say, oh, wow, that's cool. And we go down the rabbit hole of all the things that you could do with it. But we can't do that. We need to stop. So, my friends, as we look through this chapter, yes, follow government, follow the authorities until they are speaking out against what we are allowed to do. And if we do protest, we do it in a way where it's honorable and shows God's love rather than fight and be divisive. Don't think about ways to indulge your usual evil desires. Do what is right. All right, my friends, that's it for today. May God bless you. We'll see you in the next one. And have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.